I did my read. Hello, everybody. My name is Mark Colonico. I'm the president of the Stockton Chorale, and this is the first in our podcast series leading up to our 70th anniversary concert that will be on May 22nd at San Joaquin Delta College Atherton Auditorium at 3:30 p.m. Today, my guest is our artistic director, Dr. Bruce Southard. Dr. Bruce Southard has been our artistic director now for 5 years, and he is also the director of choral studies at San Joaquin Delta College. So Bruce, for people that don't know you very well, could you give us a little bit of information about your background and experience?
Well, I grew up here in the Valley, well, between here and Sonoma County. And I really got hooked into music early. In Cloverdale, I had a great music teacher. Her name was Mrs. Kelly, who taught me privately to play ukulele, and
allowed me that.
Huh? I love that.
know you were a ukulele player.
Well, that was a long time ago, but let me play in front of the class. Taught us to sing. We were learning solfege and hand signs even back as early as kindergarten, and so I really just kind of fell in love with music, and then I got into band instruments when we were here in the Valley. I was a Vinewood elementary student when I started, and I learned to play trumpet and did that all the way through high school. Still sang in choirs, and started college at Southern California for one semester as a trumpet major, and I just really wasn't loving it back there. That was before we got rid of the brown air down there, and I was coming from up here, and I didn't feel like I could ever breathe. So now I come back up. I finished at UOP as a voice major. I had to make the decision that I loved singing more than I loved playing my horn. Still played, but didn't give it the hours and hours that I had been giving it, and started singing, and that's kind of what I've been doing since. Ended up with my first choir about 1985, and I've just been doing music ever since.
So tell us a little bit about, as you started to think about the 70th anniversary concert for the Stockton Chorale, what are some of the opportunities and what are some of the challenges about developing an anniversary concert for such a milestone year?
Well, early on, when looking at the overall plan for the year, the year really has been about kind of celebration and music, but also with this reminder that we are coming out of a space where there's just tons of unrest and being isolated. People are dealing with health issues still. There's fear over, well, can we sing together? Can't we sing together? And so choosing music that's was positive, upbeat, engaging was a challenge for this concert. And then because the chorale has been so prolific in its commission works, going through those commissions, the ones that we could find and had recordings of or had actual scores for, that was a bit of a challenge because there was so much of that music to look at. And we could have easily done a whole concert of that if we could have found all the parts and pieces to that music, because we have some really great things, but it was orchestral, and finding the parts, finding a full score for a piece or something like that was not always easy. So some of that probably walked away with conductors past. Just being honest, we do that. You know, if we've marked up a score, it's very precious to us, and we don't like to give it up. And so, you know, just realistically, that is a what was a bit of a challenge. I think for us, for this 70th anniversary concert, how to be socially conscious without becoming political is always a really difficult line for any artist, but in particular with the chorale, looking at positive, encouraging music that wasn't political in nature, didn't have an undertone, has, you know, that was a bit of a challenge, because there's a lot of music being written that specifically is, you know, in reaction to something. And even we're performing the Ukrainian prayer. It took me a few weeks to really get past, okay, is this political or is this being socially conscious? Because I want to make sure that when I intentionally program something, that I personally know where that delineation is. I'm not pushing something on to my singers that's you know, what I believe. And so that's always a challenge, and was a challenge with this concert.
Well, and I striking that balance between not appearing to be oblivious to what's going on in the world, but then not, you know, then not staking down a position has got to be a kind of a difficult balancing act.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's going to be a challenge for anybody, you know, working with a group, because a group, you're going to, you know, if you have a group of 50, you have 50 different opinions about the world. You have 50 different backgrounds. You have 50 different, you know, environments in which people were raised, and trying to be sensitive that we're really creating a whole. We're bringing this into one group, one unit, one organization, and so I think that's important for us. It's like, you know, we do Christmas music, but not everybody is a Christian, and not everybody celebrates Christmas, and sometimes we have to think through those things, that, you know, how I live my life doesn't mean that someone else does the same and celebrates holidays exactly the same as I do. And so you know, we just always have to be sensitive to those things, and know not only our audience, but know our singers, and know what everybody's bringing to the table.
So as you, the title of this concert is Celebrate Singing. And so tell me a little bit about how you picked some of the pieces. You talked about looking at some of our former commissioned works. The one we did for our 60th anniversary is on this concert, and of course a brand new work. We'll be talking more about that here in just a little bit, but
yeah.
But the other pieces that either the master chorale is singing or the large chorale, tell us a little bit about the thinking behind the selections.
You know, I always start with this giant stack of music, you know, that I collect. About every May or June, I will spend a whole lot of money at J.W. Pepper and just get all these single copies. And I'll spend the entire summer going through single copies. And with the chorale, because I do my artistic plan ahead of time, if there's something I like, I'll put it in, okay, this goes in the May concert stack, this goes in the December concert stack. And I work kind of from that place. And then as those stacks, they get smaller and smaller, the more times I go through it. And for this concert, a celebration of music, a celebration of singing, has a lot of different roads we could take. And so I think we've we've taken quite a few. We've meandered with this program through some really pastoral, peaceful places. We've entered into maybe a little of the romantic. We've entered into a lot of possibilities to celebrate singing. You can celebrate singing with love. You can celebrate singing when life gets hard. You can celebrate singing just for the joy of singing. And I think we're covering a lot of those different pathways. The other thing that I was very cognizant of as we planned for this concert was, everybody responded to being sheltered in place in different ways. And when we first started singing, and I told you all this, the first day at Delta, when my students opened their mouths and sang together, they were crying. That informed a lot of what I chose and put on this concert, because the chorale was feeling the same way. I mean, we did all the Zoom things and we did all the recordings, but it is not the same as when we are organically making music together. Even warm-ups, there when we first came back, even warm-ups, everybody's just like, oh, we can do this, and so I wanted to bring a little bit of that peace in troubled times through music as well.
So in terms of some of your favorites, as you look at the repertoire, as a singer, I've recognized some composers. This is not our first Dan Forrest piece, for instance. But do you have some favorites that you, as you're teaching the music, not only you're teaching notes and rhythms, but you're teaching expression. Do you have some favorites among these that you're really enjoying working on?
I do. The Master Chorale has a couple tunes that I have really found interesting, even though not as difficult as some of the things I've handed out before. There's just a lot of music to pull out, like My Spirit Sang All Day, the Finzi. That's from 7 poems of Robert Bridges that he set as a choral song cycle. Most of those, I like most of them. There are a couple I don't ever do, but that's one of my favorites. That Haste On My Joys, Clear and Gentle Stream, I think is what it's called, is another one that is really lovely. But there's just so much music in that, so much musicality in that short little 1.5-minute piece that it every time we do it and the group does things together, it just kind of makes my heart flutter. And then I am the Song for Justice. Even though we did it virtually, doing it live is much different. There is a rhythmic energy and drive to that I'm finding fascinating in the live setting. Because in Zoom, I'm not getting any feedback from you. You're all muted. I'm just telling you what I want. I can't tell whether you're doing it right. Just, and so no feedback. And getting the live feedback on that song is just exciting. It's very, very engaging. So those are the 2 Master Chorale tunes probably that I'm enjoying the most. And the others are beautiful. Always Something Sings. The text is just gorgeous. But in particular, those 2. With the larger chorale, I always love getting to do Jubilant Song. Because it's an endurance piece, but when choirs actually sing it well, it's just so exciting, and it's an audience engager. Audiences love all the textures in that tune. And then I think also for the chorale, one that has nothing to do with singing, but the Like a River, and it's simple, but again, there's a lot of music to pull out in that. So then we have another piece that's making me cry. And lots of people know that I came to Delta as an emergency hire when Herman passed away, Herman Aguilar. And the tune that we're doing that's using his text, knowing that some of his students are singing with us, is just really moving and touching, and makes me feel more connected in that space.
Right. It's yeah. For me too. That's I think the emotion's going to hit me when we're on stage. But for those of you who don't know, Herman Aguilar was the director of choral studies at Delta College. He preceded Dr. Southard in that role, and he unexpectedly passed away in June of 2014. And prior to his death, he had written this poem as he was going through some personal issues, and the poem was then put to music. And so it's called Your Soulless Song. So if you come to our concert or you listen to it virtually, that poetry was a gift from Herman. And so another connection to this whole Herman Aguilar and his poem is Daniel Hughes, who's going to be in one of our subsequent podcasts, is the composer of the Singing Bowl, which is our 70th anniversary commission work. And Daniel was our conductor during the 14-15 season before Dr. Southard came on full time with the chorale. So talk a little bit about that commissioned work. We're in the podcast with Daniel, he talks about the composition part of it. So in terms of the artistic direction part of it, tell us a little bit about what that's like doing a brand new work.
I love it. I think when we commission music, we are moving our end of the musical art forward. We are supporting composers. We are supporting the creation of new works of art. So I think it's very important that we commission, that we run contests, that we do all those things that we do to promote new choral music and reward new, really good choral music. And I, from an artistic standpoint, we've done commissioned works in the past, and I've done new works by other composers. This is the first time I've done a new work with Daniel, and I am so thrilled. I don't think I've ever gotten a piece from a composer that is so well thought out and detailed, and little nuances here and there that he knows us. And he filled in as interim that year,
right,
before I took over, and so he knows the organization. He knows how we function and work. And I was trying to get him to write on these other texts that were a little bit more obvious, and he found this text, and this is my favorite piece on the program, to be totally honest with you.
okay,
Because every time we rehearse it, and I rehearse it 2 times a week, right?
right,
Every time we rehearse it, I find something new in the score. And I've studied it, I've looked at it, I spend time here, but every time we rehearse it, I hear, okay, that's what he wanted. Let's try and go here. And I think it's just brilliant. It'll be with organ, string quintet, children, all of the adult singers, the Valley Youth a cappella will be singing on that. So it's everybody. It's a commission for everybody in our organization rather than just for one ensemble. And
I think it's the first in our history.
I think so. Yeah, but I think it's important, right? And it's flexible. He wrote it flexible so that if you wanted to, you could do it with a regular ensemble. He did it. It's not a world premiere of the tune. He did it back in December on his Stars concert, and I went to Mission Santa Clara there, and it just had me sitting in my seat, all warm and fuzzy. It was just so beautiful, and that was a different version. That's for one adult type ensemble, and he used I want to say string orchestra. We just have the quintet with the organ, and so this is specifically written for us, but adaptable, and I just think it's just brilliant. If you, and Daniel, if you listeners know Daniel, he's really a brilliant creative guy, and I think this piece really demonstrates that. It shows that.
Well, I'm glad you talked about that in such detail, because as I said before, our next podcast in this series is going to feature Daniel. So you get to hear, first of all, from the artistic director, how intriguing this piece of music is, and then you get to hear from the creator how that all happens. So it'll be a nice connection, hearing both sides of it for our audience. So tell me a little bit, that as we wrap up this interview, tell me about being an artistic director. What's the most frustrating, or what's the most difficult aspect of being an artistic director?
There are many things that are difficult at times, and every season makes something a little more difficult, right? I think for me, and this is a personal thing most often, I'm not a very good boundary setter. And so the thing that's probably most frustrating, or that is most difficult for me as an artistic director, is saying no, and setting those clear boundaries that, okay, this is my space. I need a break to go see your section leader. Those types of things are difficult for me, because when you work in this field, you like your job. I don't know any choral directors who hate their jobs, and because we like what we do so much, it's really difficult to just not step in and do it. Which means delegation becomes then a hard thing to do. It's better when we do delegate, but delegation is difficult because we want to take care of it. Saying no to, talk to your section leader about a wrong note. Don't talk to me right now, because I need a break just like everybody else. Those types of things are hard, and sometimes a little frustrating. But it's more about me and just wanting to step in and do it all. Yeah.
And so on the flip side, what's your favorite aspect of being an artistic director?
I love the process of the whole process. I do performances okay, and they're fulfilling and fun, but I get way more out of programming and rehearsal. I love to program. I love to be creative, and I love to find things that are not necessarily the latest, greatest, hottest thing off the press, but little gems that are hidden and tucked away, maybe overshadowed by something else, but are still just really nice pieces of music. I love going to music libraries at our California universities and finding obscure things that we can put together or try. And I enjoy programming in that regard. But there's really something about starting at the beginning of the rehearsal process to the end of the rehearsal process, which caps in the performance, right? And so the performance is a piece of this. But to me, the process is, and watching things transform over a period of time, that to me is very fulfilling, and I enjoy that very much.
Well, as a singer, and I told you this before, that one of the things that I really enjoy is for me, it's like Christmas morning 4 times a year, because Bruce comes up with these wonderful pieces of music, and some of them are these obscure pieces, and some of them are, go, why are we singing this? And then all of a sudden it's, oh, I see why we're singing this. And it becomes something that some of the music for me is about, not just about the music and about the lyrics, but it's about pulling the group together. There's this dynamic that you create where there's a synergy, that bringing the group together and talking to us about how you make the music, and then listening to that result. It's a really powerful experience. And as a singer, I really like it. And I hope as audience members, you can appreciate that when that music is created and that last note sort of, reverberates through the performance hall, that this is part toil, but part love, and part really trying to connect with the music in a meaningful way. So I appreciate that, because I learn a lot about musicality that I never really understood before. So I appreciate that. Anyway, I would just like to once again invite everybody to our May 22nd concert. That concert, you can get tickets by going to the Stockton Chorale's website at www.stocktonchorale.org. You can pick up tickets through our Square store. If that's inconvenient, you can always call the Delta College box office. It's very easy to find the Delta College box office online. You can make your reservations there. You can also pick up tickets the day of the concert, although I would advise not doing that, because we've had some really, really long lines at the box office the last couple of concerts. And or if you are going to buy tickets the day of the concert, get there early. Doors open at 3 o'clock. Downbeat is at 3:30, we hope. It is our 70th anniversary, so we are going to have a couple of guest speakers. The mayor is going to be there. We're going to acknowledge our concert sponsor, our friends at Dignity Health, St. Joseph's Medical Center are the sponsors for this particular concert. So but it's really a celebration. As Bruce said earlier, all of our groups are performing. We often talk about this is the Stockton Chorale's an umbrella organization for any singer from the age of 8 to 90 plus. And we have everything in that range, everything from contemporary a cappella to a non-auditioned adult chorus. So there's plenty of ways for you to become involved as a singer, and there's plenty of ways of you as an audience member to hear this wonderful spectrum of music that you're going to hear at this concert. We always look for new singers. There's information on our website. There'll be a future podcast where we'll talk more and more about the audition process and how we've created these different levels to encourage singers of all ages and all abilities to sing with us. But we'll save that for later. Just put May 22nd at 3:30 p.m. on your calendar. We also will be live streaming this concert through YouTube, and it will be available on demand until June 5th. So if you can't be there live and in person, you have opportunities to share this concert as well. So again, Bruce, thank you very much for taking the time to participate in this interview podcast. It'll be going up in a couple of days, and I look forward to the May 22nd concert and practicing at home so that I do a better job in rehearsals of being able to contribute to the overall musicality of everything. So thanks again. I appreciate you taking the time to do this.
You bet. Absolutely.